In 1997, a retired Army colonel published a memoir claiming he personally managed a secret file of recovered Roswell debris, and that he spent years quietly feeding pieces of that technology into American industry. The book spent 3 weeks on the New York Times bestseller list. He died the following year, never living to see how much of the modern disclosure conversation would eventually trace back to him. This is The Day After Roswell by Philip Corso, and it remains the single most argued about insider account in all of UFO literature. Start with what's actually documented about the man. Philip Corso was born in 1915 and served in the U.S. Army from 1942 to 1963. During the war years, he worked in Army intelligence in Europe and rose to become chief of the U.S. Counterintelligence Corps in Rome, a real and verifiable posting. Later in his career, he became chief of the Foreign Technology Desk at Army Research and Development, and he retired at the rank of lieutenant colonel. That intelligence and technology background is genuine, and it's exactly why his later claims carried more weight than the average insider account. Here's the credential the entire book leans on hardest, and it's also the one that's been directly challenged. Corso claimed he served on President Eisenhower's National Security Council staff, a position that would have put him near the absolute center of Cold War decision-making. But according to researcher Kevin Randall, who says he consulted an archivist at the Eisenhower Presidential Library directly, there is no documentary evidence that Corso ever held that specific role. That doesn't mean nothing in his career is real. His Army intelligence work in Rome and his later technology desk posting are not seriously disputed. But the single most important credential behind his Roswell claims is one independent researchers have specifically been unable to confirm, and that distinction matters enormously for how you weigh everything that follows. Corso's central claim is specific and enormous. He says that following the Roswell incident, both technological artifacts and biological material were placed under a classified Army program, and that his job, years later, was to quietly seed pieces of that recovered technology into private defense contractors, disguised as ordinary R&D leads, so no single company would ever see the whole picture. He names the technologies directly: fiber optics, integrated circuits, night vision, lasers, accelerated particle beam devices, and Kevlar are among the items he claims trace back to Roswell hardware passing through his hands on their way into American industry. Now, the specific criticism, because this book has been picked apart in real detail, not just dismissed in general terms. Researcher Philip Klass catalogued a list of concrete factual errors. The book misplaces the wartime 8th Air Force headquarters at Fort Bliss when it was actually at Fort Worth Army Airfield. It misstates Roswell Base Public Information Officer Walter Haut's original 1947 press release, and it misdescribes the MIM-23 Hawk missile system entirely. Separately, researcher Brad Sparks pointed out something stranger. The book places Corso as a central behind-the-scenes figure in an improbably long list of major 20th century events: the Cuban Missile Crisis, the Kennedy assassination, even the outing of KGB spies inside the CIA, despite there being no historical record of Corso's involvement in any of it beyond what the book itself says. Why does a book with this many documented problems still matter this much to disclosure research almost 30 years later? Because Corso's account, whatever its flaws, is the direct ancestor of every crash retrieval claim that's come after it, and it sits squarely in the background of David Grusch's congressional testimony about legacy retrieval programs. You cannot fully understand what Grusch and other recent whistleblowers are alleging without knowing that Corso got there first, under his own name, in print, in 1997, 3 weeks on the bestseller list and all. So how should you actually read this book, given everything above? Here's the useful framework, and it's more careful than the one this claim usually gets. Treat Corso's documented Army Intelligence and Technology Desk career as real. Treat the National Security Council claims specifically as unconfirmed by independent researchers who've actually gone looking for the paperwork. And treat the extraordinary technology seeding claims and the improbable presence at nearly every major Cold War event as unverified assertions layered on top of a partially real career. That's not a reason to throw the book out entirely. It's the correct way to weigh any single source insider account, and it's exactly the same framework you should bring to every whistleblower claim that's come since, including the ones making headlines right now. This is also, underneath the controversy, a genuinely useful historical document precisely because it's been checked this thoroughly. It's a case study in what happens when a crash retrieval claim comes from someone with a real, partially checkable career rather than an anonymous source, and in exactly how that kind of claim gets tested once researchers start pulling archival records. Understanding where Corso's specific claims hold up and where they don't is essential groundwork if you want to seriously evaluate the far more recent testimony building on the same foundational premise. Who should read this? Anyone researching crash retrieval claims and whistleblower testimony, and anyone trying to understand the historical roots of what David Grusch and other recent insiders have alleged about legacy UFO retrieval programs. Read it critically alongside outside sourcing, not as a standalone source of truth. If this breakdown helped, subscribe for more honest, no-hype UFO book reviews every week. Drop a like so more people find it, and hit the bell so you don't miss the next one. The full written review with sourcing notes and where to buy the book or the audiobook is linked in the description below. Thanks for watching.